You go through a short level with an awesome background and music, followed by the fight with Zero. 2!
It's like what they did with Toy Story 2!
Anyway, you don't have to worry about a gallon of blood or anything like that. Whenever you shoot a crystal at Zero Two's eye, a tear of blood comes out, but it's nothing ridiculous like the last fight. After shooting his eye enough times, Zero Two bends over and gives you a limited time to shoot his bandage, which is actually where his eye used to be before it got destroyed. Shoot that enough times and his tail is exposed as it tries to harm you with toxic. Keep shooting at it, and he finally takes damage. Rinse, lather, repeat. His main attack, shooting energy from his eye at you, is sometimes tricky to avoid, but if you're experienced enough it should be no trouble. What really causes effect in this fight is not how epic it is, but how weirdly emotional it is. The red shifting background, coupled with the hopeless sounding music, almost makes you feel sorry for Zero. In case you don't know, Zero can feel no happiness. He never could, and the pain that his bandage and expression show makes you understand why he tried to take over the galaxy. It was only so you could all feel his sorrow. But villains must be taken down, and that's how it ends with the galaxy being saved. Darkstar blows up, and the heroes earn awards. You know, doesn't that sound slightly familiar? Our final thoughts on Crystal Shards is that it's another great adventure for the N64. The number of ways you can play through it, what with all the ability combinations, plus the music and design, all culminates in a final battle that sort of teaches you a moral. If you appreciate a somewhat slow-paced game, go for it. Also, Waddle Dee is funny. Man, every year has its bad games, and 2010 was no different. There was stuff like Naughty Bear, Blade Kitten, and Call of Duty Black... No. You didn't hear a thing. I wasn't going to say a word after the second game. You know, there is one game you're forgetting. Yeah. Kirby's Epic Yarn, like... This game is like gay. I'm made of fluffy stuff, and I... Don't you hurt my baby. To be realistic, Kirby's Epic Yarn is probably the greatest console game I started playing this year. The one thing I have to get out of the way, the music is just perfect. Now if you take Canvas Curse's design and replace it with Yarn, you've got the same thing with even more creativity. Seriously, the environments in this game are stunning. Everywhere you go, there's always something that catches your eye. Sure, you might not be able to inhale or use copy abilities in this game, but Epic Yarn has something that's just as flawless, taking the world around you and using it to your advantage. There are a lot of things you can do in this magical world of Yarn. You can become a car, parachute, wave, dolphin, UFO, penguin, tank, fire truck, train, submarine, and even a tether ball thingy. Each of these abilities are used perfectly throughout the levels. Do I even need to mention the levels? Each level, even the worlds in general, are enjoyable in their own way. Certain examples are Treatland, Dreamland, and heck, even Waterland is fun. Snowland is by far the best, however. Okay, anyone who hates this game, I know you hate it for two reasons we haven't talked about yet. One reason is that it's childish. Well, yes, it's a bit childish, but just look at each enemy when you tear them apart. Imagine that in real life. Body parts and insides flying everywhere as you beat someone up. Would you consider having second thoughts? The other complaint is that you can't lose a life. Well, the game isn't exactly made that way. It's more focused on seeing how many beads you can collect, which you lose if you get hurt like Sonic the Hedgehog. Now that my arguments are made, we're moving on to the final battle with Yin Yarn. He uses his magic sticks to create obstacles such as previous bosses, and scissors that cut across platforms you're jumping on. The music is great, being a remix of the boss theme from Crystal Shards. But when you take down Yin Yarn, he's not finished. It ends with a final confrontation that puts both of you in tanks, so you can fire missiles at each other like maniacs. The music gets even faster, and Yin Yarn goes absolutely bullet crazy. This makes for an awesome finale. After a few hits, he's gone for good. It is then revealed that his magic sticks are alive, but that doesn't really matter, and no one really cares. So the magic sticks are sent flying away, and both Patchland and Dreamland are back to normal. Kirby's Epic Yarn is a unique break from what the series is usually like. Everything in the game flows together, and it creates one big adventure that is hard to get sick of. At least in our opinion. This is the game that got me into the Kirby series. I'm just gonna reenact how it all started.
How did this get here? Oh, look, it's that Kirby person from that Super Smash Bros. Game. This looks like the piece from Pokemon Sapphire. I'm gonna put it in my Game Boy. Actually, it's a DS Lite, because my Game Boy Advance doesn't work anymore. Okay, how do I get past this pit?
And that's the story of how I began my journey with Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. Did you like it? If you thought Kirby's Adventure on the NES was a good game, Nightmare in Dreamland takes it and further improves just about everything. Only unfortunate thing is it doesn't include the egg-catching minigame. One of the minigames it does have is Samurai Kirby, in which you press A as soon as the exclamation point shows up so you can strike your opponent before getting struck yourself. Another one is Kirby Air Grind, where you hold down A except over a black railing to try to get first place. It takes skill and can be addicting, but the craziest of the three is Bomb Rally. It gets nerve-wracking when the bomb gets faster and everyone starts sending it all over the place. This game has perfect level design that a lot of Kirby games have yet to beat even now. Each level has just the right amount of stuff to keep you entertained, and every song taken from Kirby's Adventure received a nicely done remix. After beating the game 100%, not only do you unlock Extra Mode, a harder version of the game with half your health, you can also unlock Meta Nightmare, which is pretty much Extra Mode with Meta Knight. Challenge plus interesting moveset equals yes. Now, back in the days of Kirby's Dreamland, the game was addicting enough and had a satisfying finale, but when Kirby's Adventure came around, it was the first time the series got a truly interesting final battle, and it set the bar for many of those to come. After an intense fight with King Dedede, World 8 begins. You take the Star Rod from Dedede since he stole it, and he begs you not to put it in the Fountain of Dreams, because that's where the Star Rod belongs. Kirby puts it in there anyway, and calls Dedede a fat annoying pig. Then he gets an electric drill, and carves it through his head. Actually, no. Instead, the Nightmare Orb rises from the fountain and fights Kirby to the death. This fight is similar to Dark Matter in Kirby's Dream Land 2. You fight with a wand and have a limited time to beat the enemy. The Nightmare Orb will try to ram into you, shoot stars at you in different ways, and sometimes attack with small blades. The music and background, to put it simply, it makes you go, "Oh!" like an anime character when they realize something. So you take down the Nightmare Orb and a Warp Star appears. You chase him down over to the moon until he knocks you off. Then he turns into his true form, creatively titled Nightmare. Nightmare himself has lots of different attacks. He has most of the Nightmare Orb's attacks mixed with some new ones, like opening up his cape and drilling into the ground. And sometimes I don't know how to describe this, so I'm just gonna call it the unclassified move. His only weak spot is the cape whenever it opens up. It takes quite a few hits, but once you finally take him down, everything is safe until Kirby blows up the moon. Anyway, Kirby's Adventure was remarkable enough, introducing Kirby's color and copy abilities, plus the whole staged out final battle thing, but giving it a remake during the franchise's 10th anniversary made it even more fantastic, with improved level design music, plus minigames and postgame. I couldn't have ended up with a better game to introduce me to the series. Well, actually, that might be true if there wasn't a top 3. Did I miss something again? How did you ever pass high school? Oh, you take a bunch of core classes, you're basically done. This game used the same Kirby sprite as Nightmare in Dreamland, and it almost feels like a sequel. Yes, indeed, this game made by Flagship is Kirby Squeak Squad. Yes, this is the ultimate shocker. I'm sure some of you watching this right now are reacting the same exact way you did when you found out that Chris Allen won American Idol. How'd this game make it on the list, let alone take the bronze medal? Well, certain people go so far to say that this is the worst game in the series. Usually their reason is that it's pretty much the same game as Nightmare in Dreamland, only easier and shorter. Now, while I said that Triple Deluxe is too linear and not innovative, there are certain things about Squeak Squad that kept it interesting. These things include unique abilities like Animal, a new gang of villains known as the Squeaks, special pieces of music that tend to be a bit more memorable than Triple Deluxe's soundtrack, and a whole variety of things to collect. The last thing mentioned is a big reason why we enjoyed this game so much. Rather than just collecting rainbow drops or heart stars, there are lots of things to unlock, such as new moves for abilities, and a piece of a map that soon allowed access to a room containing every copy ability. When there's so many cool new things to keep track of, it makes you very interested to unlock more of it. Being too easy isn't a problem as long as you're enjoying the game. Throughout the levels you'll find bubbles that can be held in your stomach. This allows usage of many different items whenever you need them. You can even change the pattern of your stomach once you unlock a pattern, if that doesn't gross you out. The big new addition, of course, is the Squeak Team. Keeping a treasure you just found while running from a squeak is one crazy experience, especially if they catch it and you have to chase them down for it. Seeking treasure in this game always makes you wonder what you can add to your collection if you manage to get it and keep it, let alone from the squeaks, so it's easy to see why we find this game to be so much fun. The levels and art design are also an improvement from Nightmare in Dreamland. There'll be a few times where you notice something new and special this game has in its levels, but there is something I must mention. The ghost ability, it's so much fun! Once you collect every piece of the ghost metal, you can go back to a certain level and find a new boss. If you inhale it after defeating it, you get a brand new ability that allows you to possess enemies and take control of their every move. The fun part is seeing how far through the level you can take them before you have no choice but to use some other enemy. That Waddle Dee is not so good at trying to be like his father. Sometimes the results you get aren't so interesting though. Like this thing. All it can do is go up and down the wall and spit seeds. What? I'm just gonna call that the rolling cheese ball attack. So if you want to do something like what I just did, all you have to do is try stuff. Unlike most people, I find the final battle to be quite memorable. You first defeat a dark version of the Squeak's leader, and it is pretty dang tricky. He throws multiple firebombs that explode into massive columns, tosses stars all over the place, and also summons large ice rays. Sometimes these attacks happen at the same time as one another. If you don't know precisely how to survive this match, it will almost always be a close call. After that, the dark energy pops off of the leader, and you start following it through a short level. You're also given the ability Triple Star. Some people don't like it, and I would rather use a different ability. So if you have it saved up, go right ahead. After going through the level and dodging some large boulders, you meet up with the dark energy at the game's final platform. The energy transforms and, well, that thing's easy to draw. Okay, up to this point, the music was awesome, and now it gets even more epic. There's also a nice background. Dark Nebula transforms into 3 different forms: Spark, Fire, and Ice. Each form attacks and moves differently, and they each have their own elemental blasts. Contrary to what everyone else says, I actually had trouble with Dark Nebula the first couple times. Even now, you might mess up if you're not careful. After a considerable amount of hits from Triple Star, or whatever ability you're using, Dark Nebula crumbles apart. Oh, by the way, he was the ruler of the underworld. Right. Kirby Squeak Squad is a game that's loads of fun for us. It may be a typical Kirby game at first glance, but there's little things that make it much more than your average game from the series. Oh, and for all of you complaining that Kirby went on this whole journey just for cake, that's not even true. He noticed that DDD had his treasure stolen and that concerned him. At this point, all the treasure that everyone lost due to the squeaks became a problem, and Kirby realized this. So he did all of this for more than just a slice of fat and calories. When you say popular Kirby game, what is the first thing that should come to mind? Wasn't it something like Tilt and Rumbly Tumbly? You've got to be kidding me. Minus 500 points for you. Oh, wasn't the name of it like Sparkling Kids? You guys thirsty? No, we're obviously talking about Kirby Superstar, but in this case, it's Superstar Ultra. Rather than following one main story, this game was like multiple different adventures put into one cartridge. For its time, Superstar was a groundbreaking game in the series, and even its remake has a special quality that no other Kirby game has mimicked. Spring Breeze is one of the many adventures. It's an easier remake of Kirby's Dream Land that starts off your experience, and the game was remastered flawlessly. There's also more expansive modes like the Great Cave Offensive. It's somewhat similar to Kirby's Squeak Squad, only much bigger. There's so many different places to go and treasure to find that you'll spend quite a while here, which is a good thing, mind you. Revenge of Meta Knight is a storyline involving taking down the halberd and investigating each part of the ship. I especially love the characters whose dialogue you get to read while playing Revenge of Meta Knight. Each mode has something special that truly makes it feel like it could be part of its own game. Just like Nightmare in Dreamland, Kirby Superstar Ultra takes the original game and gives the music and level design an awesome remodel. If all these different games weren't enough, go ahead and check out the minigames. There's classics like a return of Samurai Kirby and Megaton Punch, which is a minigame that has you correctly time the A button to make the perfect punch. Superstar Ultra adds 3 minigames that use the stylus. There's one where you select a matching card before everyone else, and another that involves tapping on cardboard enemies to snag points for yourself. The last one has you tapping on rocks and bugs to remove them, so your character only eats the food. Each of these minigames has the perfect difficulty spike with each level. The DS version still doesn't take a break. After clearing the main game, you'll find that there are even more modes to choose. There's Revenge of the King, a harder version of Spring Breeze that changes the levels around quite a bit and ends with a special new visit to the King's castle. Him and his minion have conversations similar to Revenge of Meta Knight as you go through the castle, stopping each and every last one of his plans, until he faces you himself as Masked Deity. This mode was a great way for Hal to change things up. Helper to Hero is pretty much an arena where you get to choose any helper you'd like. It finishes off with a new boss named Wham Bam Jewel. Playing as helpers, no matter which player you are, can be great fun, but what's even greater fun is Meta Nightmare Ultra. It takes the Meta Knight side quest from Nightmare in Dreamland and gives him brand new methods of attacking, like speeding up, calling a helper, healing himself, and unleashing a devastating twister. This is some of the most fun we've ever had with Meta Knight, and who can forget the end battle with Galactonite, the greatest warrior in the galaxy as he is titled. I would make a Waffles minion reference and say what he thinks about playing as Meta Knight, but I really don't feel like it. When you start off the mode Milky Way Wishes, a young creature named Marks asks you to stop a fight between the sun and moon. You go to each and every planet, collecting stars to summon Nova. You finally get him to show up, and he asks for your wish, until Marks interrupts you. It's then revealed that he was on the bad side all along. He made the sun and moon fight, he made you collect all those stars for nothing, and now he's going to take over Popstar unless you do something about it. But before he does that, he takes a bit of time to laugh about it. Like, a lot of time. As in, it feels like 30 seconds, and you're waiting to start chasing him already. Well, once that's over with, you head inside Nova's body and have to destroy it in order to stop Marks' wish from being granted. It's a fun little side-scrolling shooter segment that gets pretty hectic at times, once everything starts to accelerate. And now you're on the battlefield with Marks in his true form. He has a bajillion attacks, from cutters to black holes to massive lasers to storms of arrows to vines sprouting everywhere. Jeez, if you can avoid all that and take down his HP, the screen starts flashing random colors, because why not? After continuing to deplete Marks' health, everything is saved. That feeling you get when you realize you've been betrayed is an awful feeling. It was actually a bit of a shocker because in Superstar it was the first time anything like that happened in a Kirby game. It makes you want revenge, and that starts taking place with the Nova fight. It's got perfect music for that kind of feeling, and the background is a nice touch considering it looks like the inside of a body. And when Marks' music starts playing and the background begins to move quickly, you just know this is it. Until you reach the end of the true arena, which, by the way, is rated 7 out of 6 in difficulty. Marks comes back as a soul, and he's even more deranged than before. All of his attacks are powered up by quite a bit, and he's got some new tricks up his sleeve as well, like screaming sporadically when you defeat him, followed by him splitting in half and exploding till nothing remains. The only way you can relieve yourself from this is by going on a morning jog and not thinking about it.
Why the heck do people jog like this anyway?
If it doesn't sound like we've given Kirby Superstar Ultra enough praise, then I don't know what else to say. Addicting minigames, addicting music, addicting levels, addicting modes, addicting boss battles, addicting post-game, you name it, this game has it. And the only way we could possibly have more respect for a Kirby game is if it was number 1. And completing a recap unlocks the number 1 slot. Number 10. Freakiest Kirby game in existence. Number 9. Why is this game so hard? Number 8. Adeline plays a Kirby game. Number 7. Kirby 3D. Get it? Because Triple Deluxe. Number 6. Speaking of Adeline. Number 5. A game that feels like pants. Number 4. A nostalgic remake. Never thought that could happen. Number 3. Kirby Geek Squad. At least the squeaks look like geeks. Never rhyming like that ever once more. And number 2, Kirby Superstar Ultra Maximum Incredible Fantastica. This is one of my favorite video games ever made. HAL took so long to make this installment, and when it was finally released, we forgave them for the wait. Oh boy, did we. Every single thing we love about the Kirby series was brought into this number 1 slot, along with everything we ever would have wanted and more. Number 1 is Kirby's Return to Dreamland. You want to know precisely how long it took for this game to come out? 10 years! You just know they tried so hard to give us this heavenly game. Where should we begin? Well, for starters, there are 2 minigames, Ninja Dojo and Scope Shot. Ninja Dojo is by far our favorite minigame in the franchise. You throw ninja stars at moving targets to try getting bullseyes, but you never know how the targets are going to move. Even after hours of playing it, the game might throw you an unexpected loop. It's easy to admit that you want to turn the game on just so you can play Ninja Dojo. Scope Shot isn't as addicting, but still fun. It has you shoot areas of a robot with the Wii remote to get rid of their weak spots. When the timer starts to run out in the higher difficulties, it makes for quite a panic attack. We never really talked about copy abilities that were introduced in Kirby games, but these 2 just have to be mentioned. Water and Leaf. Both are abilities that we wanted for so long, and both are very useful. Try as you might, but burning ice, wind, and getting smashed by a gigantic rocket will do nothing to you as long as you're hiding under a pile of leaves. Just don't try it at home. Results from all of this might be unsatisfactory. This game without a doubt has my favorite soundtrack in the series. The music is just so incredible, from the soothing sounds in White Wafers to the unique techie sounds of Egg Engines. I'm obsessed with it all. And let me tell you, not only is 4-player co-op brought back, you can choose Kirby, Meta Knight, King Dedede, or get this, Bandana Waddle Dee. The last one right there should instantly make the game a selling point. The levels? I have to start gushing over the levels too? Okay, just give me a moment. A few of the levels may be average, but most of them are some of the best ones yet. Egg Engines has some super cool ones with backgrounds and music that just make my day. I also love the water effect for some reason. The 4th level in particular is just so much fun. Dangerous Dinner has a bunch of epic stages being close to the game's end. The one that really stands out is the 3rd stage, especially the part where you get to destroy a bunch of mid-bosses in one hit. Oh yeah, super abilities. I guess we had to mention them at some point. While at first glance it may look like your typical invincible super leaf, any part of the game that uses a super ability is very well done, with special effects that are awesome to watch. They always end with a black hole at the end that throws a bit of a challenge at you. Super abilities come in Ultra Sword, Monster Flames, Snowball, and so on. Ultra Sword may be used for some of the game's greatest moments, but Snowball is probably our favorite. Now then, after going through the amazing 3rd stage of Dangerous Dinner, you get put in a battle with Landia. It could be troublesome if you're not prepared, what with Landia having lots of fierce attacks, but that's nothing at all compared to what happens next. After defeating her, you meet up with Magalore, an alien you were companions with the entire game. He takes the dragon's crown and pulls a marks on you, although it seems it was the crown that caused it to happen because he becomes your friend again in Kirby's Dream Collection. Anyway, you then move on to World 8 and start a side-scrolling shooter segment. In case you can't tell, the whole fight ends up being pretty similar to March's fight, but it gets improved by about 10 times. you'll notice a few things that are different, such as the shooting mechanic playing more of a role, and the face-to-face fight afterwards is massively intense. Lots of huge dangerous attacks, and the music and background are just awe-inspiring. Soon enough, you come to a point where the Ultra Sword is needed, so you slowly take down Magolor using that, and he tries to stop you eventually, unless you can shake the Wii Remote vigorously enough to beat him for good. This whole fight plays out like a 5-star action movie, and it's not even over after that. You still have one more form, and the attacks get even more plentiful and brutal. Magolor even starts using your own super abilities, but the fight is finally done if you can survive. Easily the greatest final battle in the Kirby series. And then Extra Mode shows up. It's pretty much the same as it is in Nightmare in Dreamland, with a surprise new boss and egg engines, and the battle with Magolor becomes even more gripping. Look, the True Arena's back. Alright, only 2 more bosses to go. Wait, what's going on? No. You guys didn't? You brought back my favorite Kirby character and improved his fight in every possible way. This is the icing on the surprise cake. I just can't believe that they're fighting on a bunch of floating nuts and bolts, which is a game that I actually got last Christmas, no joke. Look, I apologize that I've talked about Return to Dreamland for so long and you guys are probably starting to fall asleep, but there's only one more thing I have to talk about. Nutty Noon is my second favorite level in any video game, only beaten by Pianta Village. Here is why I love it so much. I was having a lot of trouble with Goriath the first time I played this game. It got me very frustrated until I finally beat him. Then the water challenge was unlocked, and I also had problems with that. By this point, I decided I would try one more level, and if it frustrated me, I would keep playing the game tomorrow instead. So I started playing Nutty Noon, and I was calmed down almost instantly. There's nothing that hard or annoying in this world, and that's a good thing because it lets you fully enjoy everything else. During Stage 1, the sun's rays show through the clouds, and it looks fantastic, with cheerful music to go along with it. In Stage 2, it turns to evening, and as soon as you begin the level, just look at that. I could easily stare at that beautiful scenery for 20 minutes. Very catchy music plays as well. Stage 3, listen to the music. It's a remix of Grape Garden, the beautiful song from Nightmare in Dreamland that only returned once. Not only was that a surprise, it's my favorite song in this whole game, and it goes perfectly with the wind blowing and the Waddle Dees floating down on their umbrellas. This level gives me chills every time I play it. No joke. Stage 4 goes from evening to night, using the same music and then going back to Stage 2's music. I always loved night scenery in a Kirby game, and here it's no different. It also features a great use of Grand Hammer. Stage 5 takes place during night. It's a whole tower of mid-bosses that was done a few times before in previous installments, but if you take a secret passageway, you can make it even harder for yourself by facing multiple mid-bosses at the same time while having to deal with things like spikes. This twist never really happened in other mid-boss towers. Then there's the boss stage. After tricking you into thinking you beat the stage early, Grand Doomer rises up. Not only does he look awesome, the fight with him is incredible. Lots of different attacks involving energy spheres, and the same kind of finale as Magolor. Great LBM, too. LBM? Oh, that's level design, background, and music. Could have used that term a lot before. This fight was the perfect way to finish off a fantastic world. I still cannot believe this game was made. The fact that a gaming company actually listened to us and gave us an adventure without a single flaw, plus all the extra touches of magnificence, I will forever treasure Kirby's Return to Dreamland. Most of all, we thank you for listening to this whole thing. Even if you thought it was boring for being positive!